There's all these things that we're scared to death to know about ourselves, but we do know. And we call it hugging the cactus.
Hugging the cactus. That's right, just another gem that you're going to get from Adrian Koehler in part 2 of my conversation with him. And by the way, if you didn't hear part 1, I want you to stop this episode right now, go back, listen to part 1, because it will give you so much more context of Adrian's incredible insight, the work he does with business owners and leaders, entrepreneurs. Again, it was just such an enjoyable conversation that I had with him that we had to put it in 2 parts. So now that you've heard part 1, buckle up, because we're about to drop some more knowledge on the Boss Hole Transformation Nation. Let's get to the episode.
The Boss Hole Chronicles are brought to you by Real Good Ventures, a talent optimization firm helping organizations diagnose their most critical people and execution issues with world-class analytics. Make sure to check out all the resources in the show notes and be sure to follow us and share your feedback. Enjoy today's episode.
There's all these things that we're scared to death to know about ourselves, but we do know. And we call it hugging the cactus. Because
I wanted to get to that. Yeah, I wanted to hear about hugging the cactus.
Hugging the cactus. It's what do we mean by that? There are parts of Adrian, thoughts, feelings, behaviors that I'm sure that if you knew, you'd run for the hills.
Okay.
And we all have that. I could talk about mine with hypercolor with no problem, just because I'm committed to owning
explored it. Yeah.
I've explored it. I talk about it. I think about it often. I think about it several times a day. Just because I don't want to just be a zombie and just act like that stuff's not true. No, it's true. It's there. I mean, it is not always true, but my worst characteristics are always available to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I spend my life trying for that not to be true, I'm going to be doing what Adler said, living a life lie. Because we all do that. Whatever our biggest insecurity is, like one of mine is that I'm stupid. I'm not very smart. Or one of them is that like I'm too intense. And that's those all, I could tell you where that happened in my life and where blah, blah, blah. But if I don't watch it, I try to prove that I'm smart and I try to chill out because I'm too much for people. That was the bigger narrative when I was a kid. Or it's like, okay, I'm not that smart and I hang out with really smart people now and I coach world-class thinkers and I'm not a world-class thinker. So I got to like do my own thing and try to, prove that I'm smarter than I actually think I am. I could spend my time doing that. That's playing not to lose.
Right.
If I play to win, I can just own that part of me. And like, maybe I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. That's okay. And, and maybe I'm too, it's like, maybe I'm too intense for 70% of humanity. That's okay. I'll hang out with the 30%. They think I'm great, know?
Yeah.
But the point is that we've all got these things. There might be moral things. Maybe you're prone to lie, or maybe you're prone to like cheat, or maybe you're prone to steal, or maybe you're prone to like, be a nice guy and you're lying. There's lots of nice guys out there. Lots of people that work with boss holes are busy being nice guys and they're lying.
Oh yeah. That's exactly right.
It's a great hiding technique because then you get to be self-righteous and get to, be the center of gossip. And anyway, if you're listening, you know who I'm talking about. It might be you, or the guy on your team that's like that, and if that's a cactus, that's something that if we were to own it, it'll hurt us.
Mm-hmm.
It'll hurt our view of ourselves, at least the way we relate to it. It'll hurt our view. And we say, hug the cactus. Because if I can befriend the things I'd rather not to be so, then I'm really unstoppable.
Right.
Like if you said, hey, Adrian, you're arrogant. I know I can be arrogant at times. Mm-hmm. And Adrian, you're really arrogant. And if you say that to me, I could either defend that or I could say, you're right, man.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally be that way. How did you see that today? I mean, what makes you say that now? And okay. I get it. My bad. Sorry. Let's start over. And then it's not a problem and I'm free and I can go, it's like none of your judgments of me would surprise me because they mirror most of mine.
Right.
So if I've got some level of self-acceptance, which most boss holes don't, because they're busy making enemies of other people. We only do that if we don't want people close to us.
Right.
Right. Like if I don't like myself, I spend my time keeping people away, and aggression is a great way to keep people away. keep people in fear so they don't get too close because I don't want them to see what I'm scared to death to see of myself. But if I can hug the cactus and all that stuff, that becomes what you said earlier with that example. If I can own all my dark side and speak of it with grace and speak of it with honesty, and it becomes an invitation, like our scars become, like our mistakes become wonderful invitations for other people to show up to the table.
Absolutely. In authenticity. Absolutely. You've mentioned it a couple of times about how in circumstances, managers, supervisors, boss holes, whatever, people in general, you talk about trying to show up in a certain way, artificially, in authenticity. We would call that impression management. In other words, they are so focused on how they show up that is nowhere close to maybe who they are. Nope. And who they're trying to cultivate or create in terms of this facade. Well, in our world, what that diminishes is what we would call psychological safety, the kind of truth and performance that can come from authentic, vulnerable, trust-based relationships. Right on. And I know there are people out there going, man, that doesn't even exist. It absolutely does exist. Right. But it's not easy to get to. And you have hit on the fact that if you can't hug that cactus, if you can't own that, then everything else is going to be very hard to achieve. But I love metaphors. I love analogies. Adrian, let me ask you this. I want to go back to shame. You mentioned shame, and you said before, and I wrote this down, shame is not a feeling. It is a self-protecting tool.
Yes.
I've heard people talk about getting into a shame spiral.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that shame and your perspective on it.
Yeah. So good to probably make a quick distinction, shame and guilt. Guilt's a good thing. Guilt is, I messed that thing up and it hurt other people and I did that thing and I ought to feel guilty about it. And if you don't feel guilty about your mistakes, then you're a psychopath and you ought to look in the mirror. And you're not going to get the life you want if you don't feel guilt. You ought to feel guilt about things. It's good. It's good to feel guilty. It's like a sense of consciousness. Like I actually do care about my impact on on other people and the world. So when I don't hit that mark, I want to feel a cringe inside of myself.
Right.
Now, about what I did, this is the distinction. So guilt is a negative feeling associated with an action or an inaction, like what I did or didn't do, or what I said or didn't say, whatever. It could be on both sides.
Okay.
So it's good to feel guilty. Now, shame is distinct. Shame is I did that bad thing, so I'm bad. It's an identity-based conversation. So I am the bad thing that I did. Like I lied to that person, so I'm a liar. So that becomes identity. Now, if we have that view of ourselves, and it might have been assigned to us from somebody else or whatever, it doesn't matter where it comes from. If I start to actually believe that about myself, it's criminal. It's dangerous and it's criminal. Dangerous in the sense that like the brain is always out to prove what you tell it to prove. So if I say I'm a liar, I will go be that person. If I have that view, I will naturally go do that or live to make sure that I'm not doing that. Either way, that conversation is controlling my experience and my perception and my actions and all that. And if I'm scared that I'm a liar, I'm going to be doubling down all the time and trying to prove to people I'm telling them the truth. Now, I say it's not a feeling. I say that it's a protective strategy. Why is that? Because if I am living in shame, first off, there's lots of payoffs to shame, lots of them. Like if I'm in a conversation with someone that's really shameful, I'll just say, why do you like being so full of shame? And they'll say, what? I don't like being so full of shame. What are you talking about? I hate this. I wish I didn't feel this way. I wish I didn't do the same, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, let's say reality tells the truth and we don't. So if I'm living in shame often and having this experience or having this quote unquote feeling often, I'm prone to wonder, I wonder why I like it. Now it's a counterintuitive question that most people won't ask themselves because it's shame is quote unquote bad. And if it's bad, why would I like it? And blah, blah, blah. But if it's a pattern for me, it's helpful to wonder about why I like the pattern, even if I'm busy complaining about it. Right. Because in any kind of racket, I would say, because anytime I have something around that I say I don't like for a long period of time, like it's a chronic complaint, there's always three things with it. One is there's a system of behavior that keeps the complaint alive. So you could watch your life and say, how do I keep putting myself in this situation? Number one. and keep those feelings alive, even because sometimes if like you feel bad about something and someone says, it's okay, man, don't worry about it. You'll be like, oh no, but I can't believe I did that. And you got a big drama, long story about it. I keep the thing alive. So that's number one. Number two is there are always payoffs to the racket. There's always payoffs. There's reasons why, and it's an under the table negotiation. So there's like reasons why I like it. Like, just real quick for the sake of time, why do I like shame? I get sympathy. Yeah. I get to not be 100% responsible. I usually get to blame somebody else. I get to lower the bar about my own participation. I get to, to myself and then other people, I say, I'm not so good at this thing and blah, blah, blah. Or it's like, whatever story we've got that we're shameful about. And I get to be a victim. There's lots of payoffs to it. And you get people's attention all the time. All the people that are like always, woe is me. They love the attention of that. They love the attention. Otherwise they wouldn't do it.
All right.
So there's payoffs, and there's also always prices to it as well. So like I don't have dignity, and I can't actually generate a future that I want because I don't trust myself, and I'm not that trustworthy to myself, and I'm not that trustworthy for other people, because as soon as I feel bad about something, I pull myself out of the game, and I can't be trusted when the clock is ticking. Right. There's like we can go through a long list of prices. So shame is a big deal, and shame, especially my experience with top performers, they almost all deal with it at a deep level, and it's almost like that's why they end up being so closed off and arrogant, because they don't want people to think poorly of them. And as poorly as they think about themselves, most people aren't actually into being successful. Most people are actually into not being unsuccessful, which is a very different game. Like, they're like striving, always want to make it work, always needing to get their name in the paper and blah, blah, blah. Why? Because they're scared to death they don't matter. And they're scared to death they're going to be a failure, just like their brother, just like their dad, just like other people that look like me and from my background. So I'm running from loss, running from death, instead of pursuing life and pursuing victory. So everybody deals with it, and there's not a real space to deal with it. That's why we do the revenant process.
And we will be right back.
With employee disengagement at its highest level in 9 years, your company can't afford to miss the mark when it comes to optimizing your hiring, management, and team performance practices. At its lowest level, employee turnover costs you $11,000 per person, and those are dollars you can easily save with the right set of people analytics. Real Good Ventures is a talent optimization consultancy specializing in world-class analytics specific to your people and the critical role they play within your organization. Gain confidence in your hiring practices, keep the boss holes from driving your talent away, design your teams for flawless execution, and create a culture that offers meaning and fulfillment. Real Good Ventures has a family of validated diagnostic tools specific to the human aspect of business, because we know that all business issues are people issues. Visit us today at www.realgoodventures.com and bring meaning and fulfillment back into your workplace.
Okay, let's get back to the program.
Which is a 4-day deep dive personal leadership exercise. So it's 4 days. It's like 12-hour days. We don't mess around. It's highly participatory. So it's not like me with in front of a whiteboard just teaching stuff, because human beings, adults, especially high-functioning adults, don't transform with information. We find it interesting, but it expires pretty quickly. Yep. So you're not there as a student, you're there as a participant. People come into the room because they're only allowed in the room if they know why they're there. Yeah. Like, what in your life do you want to make a big shift in? And we help people get prepped for that. And they utilize, we call it a gym. We utilize the gym. We utilize the space in order to exercise being what they want right now. And so, we know that there's so much of what's happening for us as individuals, and it's all happening in the belief world, right? We know this from neuroscience now. We've known it for a long time from all the philosophers and psychologists, but now we know that everything we do, I say it like this, all results come out of actions we take or don't take. All action comes out of decisions we make or don't make, and all decisions come out of thinking, and every thought we've ever had comes out of belief system, period. Not going to get around that. That's just the filter by which we live. And if I don't question, most of us don't question our beliefs. We try to make the best of a shitty belief system, instead of being willing to take a look at what are the beliefs that are governing my life. Because I guarantee any place in your life where there's breakdown, there's something off in what you think about and how you approach the thing. I mean, the vitality in life comes out of our relationship to life itself, and relationship to other people, and relationship to ourselves. It's always our relatedness, and that's a belief conversation.
Right.
So there's not a lot of space to go do that. You can go read a book, maybe. You can go sit with a therapist, maybe. But there's not a lot of space to go work that out in real time, and get feedback, because we're all, I forget, Xander, maybe the philosopher that said the perspective of human beings fluctuates between flattery and pure fantasy. So we don't see ourselves very well.
Right.
And so we need to get in a space in which there's lots of love and lots of commitment for you to get what you want. And that's what the room is for us. And it's fantastic. We've got, I think 6 of them next year. There's been so much demand. We're going to do a whole bunch of them. The next one's going to be in Boise, Idaho in February. And then we're going to do one in LA. And it's with my business partner. He's been doing these for 40 years. He's the best in the world at this. He says there's one other guy better than him. I don't think so. Okay. He's the best. If you're into leadership, if you don't do anything else, come and watch Dan Tacchini work a room. Just, if you're like me, like you just stand at awe of human beings that can presence a room. There's nobody better than Dan. That's why I'm partners with him. That's why I hired him originally when I ran a foundation. I hired him to come in. We did these types of trainings with murderers in prison, and then we trained the murderers how to do the trainings. And the recidivism rate, if you go through our 3-day training called Ready for Life, it goes from 87%, 87 out of 100 guys, when they leave prison, they'll come back. If you go through our program, that goes down to 12%.
Oh my gosh.
Why?
Oh my gosh.
Because the whole conversation is about how to get out of a victim mindset and get into a responsible mindset. If you do that, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
So anyway, Revenant changed my life. I went through it, 15 years ago, and now I get to co-train it with Dan. I'm going to do it solo in LA. So if you want to watch me look like a fool in front of a group of 50 people, come on.
And if I may just remind our listeners, get into the show notes. The links to the Revenant process will be in there. So take up Adrian. And by the way, just to circle back to something that you said.
Yeah.
You said that, this is why I partnered with Dan. See, that's how smart you are. See what I mean?
Well, as soon as I met Dan, I love mentorship. I love being an apprentice.
Right.
I mean, I'm a stud. I can do whatever as well. I'm not making less of myself. I'm an expert in my field.
Right.
And that's great. But yet, man, it's a thrilling ride to never be done developing.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
What else can I, how good could it get? That's the game that never ends. And that's thrilling to me. So I want to be around people that Dan and I are very different people. And we've got very different views on so many things, which is all great and distinct. And that's great. So there's aspects of Dan that I won't ever be like, but there's this domain that he's the best.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, he believes in me and he'll say nice things about me in public. But I don't need to be like him, but I want to absorb everything I got just because I'm committed to his legacy and I'm committed to my own. And so it's just such a thrill to go, and it's when people come to the room, it's very vulnerable for them. We took a survey recently of 2,000 people. I think it was 97% of the people said it was the top 3 experience in their life.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's great. That says a lot.
And it is that way for me too. When I'm up in the front of the room training, I'm in a training myself. I'm not just there teaching stuff, which is part of what makes it distinct. It's not like expert student. No. We're in this thing together called life. We're all full of shit and we're all full of potential. So here we are. Now let's have all the real conversations and be transformed.
Yeah. Set the pretense aside and let's get to work. Okay. Listen, Adrian, in the time we have left, and this has been great. And I knew that our listeners were in for a treat with this episode. Tell me what's around the corner. You've got some exciting things going on. What's the thing that's going to shift things for you moving forward?
We know, I know that when I got a hold of this type of work, this philosophy, which is based on phenomenology, Soren Kierkegaard, Heidegger, there's certain philosophies that really make a huge difference for people. When I got a hold of this work and got to see it in person and then got to now start to practice it, it's not enough. I want to scale it. I want everybody to get a chance to do that shift from I am at effect of reality or I'm creating reality.
Okay.
There's a big difference. So, but the only shift is to take ownership. And so we want to scale the conversation. We want to serve as many people as we can. And I don't want to work 25 hours a day. So one of the ways we've done this is we've partnered with Danny Tacchini, who's a world-renowned coder and is top shelf when it comes to AI. And what we've done is we've taken our type of inquiry and baked it in to this program called Maven. And we're about to launch this. We'll launch it in the next 2 months. And essentially, it is a coach in your pocket. Like, imagine that when you have any kind of challenge, any kind of complaint, we're doing it via text instead of app, because who needs another app? It's
Right.
like you're texting your best friend. You can say, hey, I'm on this conversation with John, and he is such a stuck-up jerk. I don't know what to do about him. He won't change his mind. He won't do this and won't do that. What should I do? And
Right.
it leads you through a series of inquiry in order, first off, to get clear about the real problem, because most people can't get a solution because they don't know the real problem.
Yep.
So you get down to it and really clearly define what the real problem is. And then you move from clarity into ownership. Okay, good. How have I contributed to this? How is it the way it's so? How have I been participating?
Yep.
Are there other alternatives or ways to look at it versus the way I'm looking at it? Because we're all dogmatic and create our own hell that way. And how do I need to look about this thing so I can really own it, so I can be willing to do something about it? And then what do I do about it? And what are the courageous actions I can go take today in order to shift that thing to get the way I want it to get? So who do? You hire somebody like me that does that, or it's in your pocket and you can just send them a text message. Now we've got it I can just speak into it and it'll speak right back to me, which is really cool. So we know this is going to change the game for people that are striving to make the world better, make the workplace better, make a difference with other people. It's called Maven. It's going to come out soon. And I can follow up with you whenever we're ready to launch the thing.
Please do.
So people can play with it. Or I can, after this, John, I'll send it to you and you can play with it. Because we want as many people to get this as possible. We have a very generous financial structure that people that, can do it on an enterprise level. Anyway, it's going to be great for everybody, but mostly people get free. They could see more possibilities and not just be stuck with the options in life.
Immediately. Right there, right then
now.
And there. And that's
Right
huge.
now.
The immediacy of that is great. Oh my gosh, Adrian, I'm excited for you. I'm excited that listen, yes, please keep us up to date on how that's rolling out, how things are going. A reminder to everybody, go to the show notes, check out Adrian's links and more about the Revenant process. And by the way, there's another program called the Intrepid Leadership Process. Go check that out.
Yep.
But Adrian, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. I just want to thank you for sharing your story, your work with the Boss Hole Transformation Nation. And how about if you come back sometime? We'd love to have you back.
I would love it, man. You're a class act, man. A natural camaraderie, and I get what you're up to in life, man. And we don't know each other very well, but sometimes you're just around people. You're like, I like this guy, like salt of the earth. Like this guy's, he's really about what he's talking about. And so I just feel your presence. So thank you, man, for your commitment to this community that you've built and your commitment to the future that's worth having. And it's awesome. So I'd love to come back at any point. And just for anybody listening, life's short. And you're important, and I'm getting emotional now just thinking, but I dare you to get after it. And a lot of times, if you're a hard charging person, which you probably are if you're listening to this, it might take a step back and listening more and dealing with some more of these inner conversations. And I know John and his team, they're a big resource for you. Of course, we are at Take New Ground too. So we're just here committed to having the most vital experience we can have. So thanks for listening. And if we can be of any assistance to you down the road, we're here for you.
Amen, brother. That was it.
Awesome.
This is great. Adrian, thanks again.
John, you're the best. Thanks, buddy. I'd love to come back. If whenever it's appropriate. Awesome. Rock and roll. Anytime.
All right. Sounds great. And we will see you next time on the Boss Hole Chronicles.
We'd like to thank our guest today on the Boss Hole Chronicles. And if you have a Boss Hole Chronicles story of your own, please email us at mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. Once again, mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. We'll see you again soon.